This is the NPI number for Kelsey Brennan Beecham, LCSW. The reason I'm sharing this is so people know who I'm talking about. I'm not making up some random person that doesn't exist. This is who I'm talking about. This was my former therapist. This is the person that did the things that I'm going to state that they did in this video. This is Kelsey Beecham's Psychology Today profile right here. She's a passionate therapist, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I want to point out, I'm going to move on right here. So one of the problems with Kelsey here is that she's incapable of regulating her emotions. She would regularly get upset during therapy sessions, almost be moved to tears sometimes if I had yelled, not at her, but about things and things of that nature. She's a very emotionally dysregulated person. Which is sad, and I'm not just transposing here, it's visible. I mean, you can see it. Okay, but this is what I thought was funny is it's what to expect from her sessions. Okay, first let's get into who she is. So, about her. Now, so she's a passionate therapist whose mission is to help you achieve emotional wellness. She did nothing but destroy my emotional wellness by trying to get me in touch with my emotions so that she could destroy my emotions. As a licensed clinical social worker, she's practiced therapy for over 7 years in a variety of settings. Her therapeutic treatment modalities include cognitive and dialectical behavioral therapies, EMDR. Now, all dialectical behavioral therapy it's therapy without the therapist, essentially. So don't fall for that one. She also does EMDR, prolonged exposure therapy, and brief fix therapy, focused on fixing, whatever. She chooses from eclectic and appropriate modalities, meaning modalities that fit the problems facing the person and the person's personality. She has, now this is going to be important because when you see her specialties, when a therapist has specialties, they see their specialties in every client they work with. So she has experience treating a wide variety of mental health diagnoses, including anxiety, depression, trauma, blah, blah, blah. She is a mother, a military veteran, and a survivor. Now, a survivor of what? Most likely, I would say some form of emotional or physical abuse. This would lead to the sweeping and wild conclusions that she made about me, which were not based in reality. They were based in YouTube videos. Okay, she's a lover of animals, of yoga, and of art. Okay, she loves to work with people of all racial and cultural backgrounds and sexual orientations. She has experience working with people who are neurodivergent and neurotypical, so people that are not normal and people that are normal, essentially. In her scope of work. So now this is what's funny. She likes to create a safe space, okay, for open and non-judgmental communication. She was very judgmental of me, and she knows she was. And she was judgmental of me, not based on anything I did. And I'm going to show that. She was based on me, based on her own past experiences with who knows who, God knows what, doesn't matter to me. And what's funny is here she says she's a survivor, right? Now, I didn't even look this up when I was in therapy with her, okay? But she was using as an excuse for people lying to me and people assuming things about me that people have vicarious trauma. Well, apparently, my actual trauma, my PTSD doesn't matter as much as other people's vicarious trauma, which means trauma gained by a therapist or mental health provider by treating other people. Now, apparently she's a survivor, and I said, I don't know of what. My assumption is of some sort of emotional or physical abuse. Now, she is a military veteran. I don't know if she saw any action. She is a combat medic, So I'm assuming she may have seen some things that are upsetting, but when she says a survivor, I believe that that refers more to being a survivor of some sort of physical or emotional abuse at the hands of a man. Now, mind you, I'm not that man. Period. I'm not. So, because of her potential past experience with a man, again, I don't know, but she did state that she was a survivor in her profile. Because of her past experience with a man, not me, a man, she decides to draw unusually absurd opinions about me. So she specializes in the utilization of cognitive behavioral therapy, solution-focused brief therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's go here. So her specialties. Her specialties are anxiety, bipolar disorder, coping skills, depression, dissociative disorders, or DID. Now, I do have dissociation issues. I do not have dissociative identity disorder. However, because her specialty is dissociative identity disorder, she had tried to convince me that I had dissociative identity disorder, or that I had the symptoms of dissociative identity disorder. I do not. Okay, so what's the difference between, well, I have depersonalization, not disassociation. I'm sorry, I have depersonalization, but depersonalization can be part of dissociative and identity disorder. But she said that my anger was based not in the validity of the anger from people like her doing the things that people like her do, which, by the way, before she discharged me, she recognized why I was angry, or that why I was angry, because nobody decided to clarify anything with me. They decided to use what they found on the internet and take that as the truth. Okay? So that's what's upsetting. Okay? Now, why is she a lying, devious, conniving, backstabbing person? Well, because, and I'll get into this later, because she told me that they, meaning her agency, found my YouTube profile, my YouTube channel. And then she insisted that I send her links proving that I was being stalked, threatened, and harassed. Now, I made sure that I waited until the county investigation that I had asked for was finished, and the county covered it up like I knew they would. Okay, I wasn't expecting anything special, but I really didn't want to hammer this chick. I liked this chick. I thought this chick was, had my best interests in mind. Once more, I made a mistake. I should have known something was up when she wanted me to get in touch with my emotions so that my judgment would be clouded, because that was the only reason for me to get in touch with my emotions, just like I explained to her would happen. I did not want my judgment clouded. So, my judgment was clouded. That's why she wanted me in touch with my emotions. Now, so what happened was, after she made all these accusatory statements about me and asking me why I was being harassed, why are you being harassed? As though it's my fault I'm being harassed, right? Then she says that she insists, or she suggested very strongly, that I send her the emails that I received, the threatening emails, so that she could prove that I was being harassed, threatened, and stalked. Yeah, I did. But then later up on the county investigation, what was discovered was these emails were utilized to prove that I allegedly shared her these links, which I didn't. I didn't send her a single link until after she had asked me for links. That's what had happened. And then out of nowhere, oh no, I'm sending her all these links, and that's what happened. And that's when they became aware I was being stalked, harassed, and threatened online. No, it's not, because 6 months prior to this, this same agency attempted to 302 me because they said I was psychotic because I said I was being stalked, threatened, and harassed online and in real life, and that I had numerous police reports to prove it, blah, 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 blah. They said I was psychotic. They tried to 302 me. They sent me to another place where the 302 was thrown out by the attending psychiatrist, who said, no, he's not psychotic. It's actually happening. So they were aware, not to mention I had been bringing up the fact that I'm being stalked, threatened, and harassed for over 4 years, not just to this therapist, but to like 4 previous therapists. Okay? But yet somehow they're magically only aware of it after all this? Doesn't make any sense. This is a PubMed article on dishonesty in therapy. The findings revealed that virtually all respondents acknowledged they had been dishonest. Now, what you'll see is they say there's not really much explored about therapist dishonesty. That's because therapists like Mrs. Beecham, who is also a researcher for Kutztown University, but researchers like Mrs. Beecham are also therapists, which is why they choose not to explore therapist dishonesty. They have more important things to look into, like how to oppress men. Okay, so findings revealed that virtually all respondents acknowledged having been dishonest with their clients at least once, most often about their own emotional health. Yes, because if somebody like Mrs. Beecham was honest about her emotional health, nobody would fucking see her. Okay. Most felt their dishonesty was in the service of their clients. This is this little narcissistic game they like to play where they're always doing what's best for the client. No, it's not. I worked with therapists, okay? I know they lie more than anybody. Novice therapists reported being dishonest with their clients more frequently than therapists with more experience. This is not the therapists with more experience, and I'm telling you this from experience working in mental health. This is not because therapists with more experience are more honest. This is because therapists with more experience are less fazed by their lying. They're more used to lying. They lie all the time. They gossip all the time. They spread lies about their clients all the time. I caught numerous coworkers of mine lying about their clients when I worked in mental health. They exaggerate things. It's all ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And this is why I strongly suggest people do whatever they can to avoid receiving treatment from mental health practitioners and seek medically minded doctors that can help with things like psychiatric issues, as opposed to going to a therapist or going to a psychiatrist or things like that. Go to a family practitioner or somebody that's a practitioner of actual healing arts, not just nonsense. This is the long form of that. This is about therapist dishonesty. You can read this on your own when you get a chance. Long form of the same thing. So initially what had happened was Mrs. Beecham flipped because I jokingly asked her, and like I said, she's not capable of regulating her emotions or coming to these wacky conclusions. I was helping her manage her weight. I used to be a personal trainer. She didn't seem to mind. I liked helping people with their weight. She seemed to be very appreciative. In fact, she had told me she was appreciative. Okay, so I'm explaining to her that I wanted to apologize to her. This is my exact words. This is my email to her. Okay, so I said I have an odd schedule, no schedule. I just wanted to say yesterday that I was telling you that you could check out my YouTube. You looked nervous, as though you were concerned that you would have to set professional boundaries. Now, being a former mental health worker, I know how difficult it can be to set professional boundaries for some people. Not me. I was a very by-the-book person. I did everything by the book. Okay, I never had problems with setting boundaries, but I'm also a man. Women tend to have more problems with that. So I was letting her know, I understood, blah, blah, blah. So one other time this happened when I asked you if you had a husband a few months back before suggesting that you take walks in your neighborhood. I assure you, now remind you, I was helping her to manage her weight. Okay, so when I suggested you take walks in your neighborhood, I assure you that you don't need to set any boundaries with me. I already know what they are. I just wanted to clarify. A couple of months ago, when I asked if you had a husband, it was because I was going to suggest that you go for regular walks in your neighborhood. Just because of anything else, I just wanted to make sure you'd be safe if you went for a walk. Okay, well, what I was saying is, walk around with your frickin' husband, okay, so that you're safe. In closing, I just want to apologize if I made you uncomfortable. There's no need to respond to this email. I'll see you on Tuesday. Now, on Tuesday is when she sprung the crap on me, saying that they, meaning her agency, had found my YouTube channel, and that they, meaning her agency, wanted to make sure that I didn't have any firearms. And then she started asking me, why am I being harassed? Well, I'm being harassed because people online want to harass me. Okay, that's why I took the bait. Okay, that's why I'm being harassed. So that's kind of what happened. I said, I also won't email you like this again, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't asleep, yada, yada, yada. Moving on. Quickly, I would like you to note that the date of this email that I sent her was 8/23/2022. I had not sent her any links to my YouTube channel prior to this, and the only reason I had sent her links to my YouTube channel prior or after this was because she had suggested I send them to prove I was being stalked, threatened, and harassed, because she had stated that there were things on YouTube that made me look quite bad. Okay, and then the next day, on the phone with another mental health provider who is a witness of mine, she had stated that what had happened is her supervisor had Googled me, had looked me up, and had found videos that mentioned, and I quote, the ages of girls. And that was the reason that spurred the whole rigmarole in motion. Okay, now notice the date, 8/23/2022. So this is me explaining to her that I don't know which one of them to believe, her or her supervisor. Her supervisor is claiming that she sent her supervisor a link, which is impossible, because I didn't send her a link at that point in time to send her supervisor. So the only way she could have sent a link to her supervisor would be if she made it up and sent her a link that she herself had found. Okay? So that would be the only way she could do that. However, what she, meaning Kelsey, Mrs. Beecham, had told me was that they, meaning her agency, her supervisor, had found my YouTube channel, and that she, Kelsey, wasn't concerned at all and didn't think anything. However, then she, Kelsey, had stated that I had, well, number one, after she had stated that her agency and her supervisor had found my YouTube channel, then she had stated that they wanted to make sure that I didn't have any firearms. Mind you, I hadn't threatened to harm anyone and hadn't threatened to harm myself. So being that I hadn't threatened to harm anyone and hadn't threatened to harm myself, there would be literally zero reason to ask me if I had firearms or not. So this is me explaining to her that I have a problem. I don't know whose story to believe, her supervisors or hers, because they're not consistent. I said, and nobody else's story is consistent. There's like 8 different stories at this point, with different people giving me different stories with completely different events. So I said, factually speaking, you can't both be correct. In reality, reality is probably somewhere in between the two versions. What really makes me mad, I should say, I said make me mad, is that Allison said that I sent you a link of one of my videos. I purposely saved all of my emails just in case something like this happened, and I can prove that I didn't. I sent you an email apologizing, which I had just read, apologizing for making you uncomfortable, that contained no link to any video. So either Allison is lying or you're lying. I know everyone else is lying, meaning the other employees of the company, because what they're saying makes literally no sense. There's no way that like, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you had complained that things were taken out of proportion. You never specified whether by me or by Lenape Valley. The point that I would make is that if you had my past, you would quickly understand that I didn't take anything out of proportion. And I have tried very hard not to act in a nasty or mean-spirited manner, despite how I've been treated by the employees of Lenape that feel that it's okay to gaslight me and blatantly lie to me, not to mention, in Christopher's case, attempt to accuse me of threatening an act of lethal violence against him, which if I didn't have a witness, I could be in a lot of trouble for something I never even said. You don't grasp the risk I took simply by being alone in a room with somebody whom identifies as a therapist, or how stupid I feel for trusting you, or how foolish I now realize I was for listening to you about getting in touch with my emotions, which did literally nothing but cloud my reasoning ability. The truth is that you probably thought Allison took things out of proportion. To be 100% honest, you've worked in the mental health field long enough to know how empowered females act when you bring something up in supervision. Plus, I want you to understand that despite all of my instincts screaming to me what a horrible idea it was to work with you, I did it anyway. Once I entered a room with you, anything you say about me becomes the truth, in quotations, to any judge or cop or anyone else. Firstly, because you're a woman, and secondly, because you're a mental health provider. Christopher knew that, which was why he pulled that bullshit. I still have absolutely no fucking clue why he called me. Both my ex-girlfriend and my other mental health provider think that it was to agitate me, and this is the truth, they do. They think it was to agitate me and set me up. I think it was just to set me up and get me locked up so I can be labeled a kook and stop pointing out the vast corruption at Lenape Valley Foundation. Mind you, at this point, I have already pointed out their corruption involving Big Pharma, their corruption involving research, their corruption involving Republican politicians. I have pointed all that out, and I will continue to point that out, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. Okay, I said, and then I explained to her, I said, where am I at? I think it is just to say, okay, I'm really just venting at this point. As you know, I have literally nobody and will work on getting used to that. This whole ordeal has been one gigantic, monstrous mistake. I probably will do a video about you, but it's hard as I don't want to be overtly mean. Though I also think you deserve to be exposed for the nonsense that you put me through. I would like to tell you the following things. Number one, you shouldn't work with men ever again. You're too easily intimidated by men, especially men that have explosive outbursts. Number two, you have some very real biases. When I worked in mental health, I had to purposely not acknowledge my biases towards gays, blacks, Christians, Wiccans, feminists, etc., and still provide the same services that I would provide to anyone else, and I did that. I don't think that you can, and I respectfully think that you should work with women and solely help women. Number three, I feel utterly wrecked, and this is the truth, I feel utterly wrecked in regards to trusting anyone. I thought, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I hope that you've learned anything from this video. I know I was right all along, and you folks did nothing but fuck me up more. I really tried to be nice, caring, understanding, kind, and just work with you, and apparently these are the same mistakes I make with everyone. Okay, and then I was pointing out to her, because prior to this, a couple weeks, about 2 weeks prior to her ending sessions with me, upon my request, she had asked me, she said, what's the worst thing that can happen if you get in touch with your emotions? And I explained that it can cloud my judgment and could make me not be able to respond in a life or death situation like I might have to. And so what I did is I sent her this little joke, and I say, it says you, meaning her. What's the worst thing that could happen if you get in touch with your emotions? I said exactly what happened. And then this is Geraldo Perez, otherwise known as Royce Boy, explaining, and you know, actually correctly, I have to give it to him. First Eliana, then the nurse, and now your therapist. Geez, women are lining up to humiliate you. And I sent that to her, and I said the people harassing me make more sense than the employees of Lenape Valley Foundation. And that's all for this video.